When it comes to Father's Day, some things never change. Dads want steak. And the experts at Omaha Steaks are making it easy for you to deliver uncompromising quality with gifts that are sure to make his day. Plus, get an extra $35 off with code THANKSDAD when you shop omahasteaks.com today. We know, being your dad means he already has everything he could want. But just picture the look on his face when he sees those extra-aged USDA-certified tender steaks, juicy air-chilled chicken, beefy burgers, and more. With carefully curated gift packages from America's original butcher, it's never been easier to show everyone why you're dad's favorite. And every bite is 100% guaranteed to bring a thrill to the king of the grill. Shop now at omahasteaks.com and get an extra $35 off with code THANKSDAD. But don't wait. Father's Day is June 15th. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details.
You're listening to Missing Persons, brought to you by AbJack Entertainment. Be sure to check out some of the other great true crime podcasts from this network, including The Murder in My Family,
DNA ID, Zodiac Speaking,
Scene of the Crime,
Beyond Bizarre True Crime,
Citizen Detective, and
Campus Killings.
All of these podcasts are available for you to binge on right now, wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe where you're listening to this podcast so you don't miss an episode.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast do not necessarily represent those of the podcast, its creators, or sponsors. If you would like to discuss a missing persons case on this podcast, please be sure to visit missingpersonspodcast.net. This episode may contain unsettling or disturbing subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
If you'd like to support Missing Persons and get VIP access to things like ad-free listening, early preview episodes, and bonus content of not only this show, but for every other podcast on the AbJack network of indie podcasts, consider subscribing to the show with an AbJack Insider subscription through Apple Podcast. For only $4.99 a month or $49.99 a year, you'll unlock a variety of listener benefits, and you'll be supporting the show in the process. Your support is greatly appreciated.
Welcome to Missing Persons, a podcast dedicated to spreading the word about people who have vanished under mysterious or unexplained circumstances and the family members who are looking for answers. I'm Jess Betancourt.
And I'm Mike Morford. Together, we created this podcast to help give a voice to people who continue to search for their missing loved ones. In some cases, even after decades have gone by. In each episode, you'll hear from Jess giving listeners the backstory and the basic facts of the disappearance.
Then Mike will speak with someone who's intimately connected to the missing person, and his guest will share their story with us. So sit back and enjoy this episode, and who knows, maybe you can help us find someone who's missing. Lisa Marie Shuttleworth was born on June 25, 1969, to parents Jerry and Lorraine. She grew up in South Carolina, where she attended Midland Valley High School in Graniteville. After graduation, she began working and had a daughter, Krystina, who is our guest today. When Krystina was 2, Lisa married a man we are calling JT, and he adopted Krystina as his own. Several years later, JT and Lisa had a son together named Ryan. Lisa's children remember her as a doting and caring mother who would do anything for them and showed her love for them daily. But Lisa's childhood best friend, Joy, told local station WJBF that JT was violent and abusive, and with the help of family and friends, Lisa extricated herself from the marriage, getting a divorce in 1996. Even after getting out of the marriage, though, Krystina tells us JT continued to threaten Lisa, and she remained afraid of him during those time periods when he was out of prison. JT was not very involved in the kids' lives, and Lisa had recently filed for child support. 34-year-old Lisa supported her children by working long night shifts at Jericho's, a private bar owned by her father on Belvedere Clearwater Road. This allowed her to be home to get the kids to the school bus in the mornings and get them off the bus in the afternoons before going to work. Thursday, September 4th, 2003 was no different. Lisa got her son up at their Aiken, South Carolina home. They were running a little late, so she gave him breakfast and took him to school rather than putting him on the bus. Ryan was a third grader at Warrenville Elementary, and his 14-year-old sister Krystina was a freshman at Midland Valley High School. Krystina had spent the night of the 3rd at her grandparents' house and called home that morning before school. Lisa agreed that Krystina could drive home from school to her friend's house, and Lisa would pick her up that evening to go shopping for school supplies. After she dropped Ryan at school, Lisa was seen at a pit stop convenience store on Pine Log and Storm Branch Roads at 9 a.m. Video footage showed her sitting in the car reading a newspaper while the gas flowed into the tank. But it wasn't her own car that she was in. Her 1994 Pontiac Grand Am was broken down, and she had borrowed a white Lincoln Town Car from an elderly friend of her father's named Neil Durden. After that, it's believed that Lisa went home. Lisa always met 9-year-old Ryan at the bus stop after school around 3 p.m., but on this day, she didn't. Puzzled, he walked the short distance home. There, he saw Lisa's non-working car and her borrowed car, both parked in the driveway. He went to open the front door to go inside, but found it locked. Ryan did what any 9-year-old would do in the era before cell phones. He went to a friend's house who lived nearby and waited for his mom to turn up. After some hours, he walked back home and just sat there outside the house, waiting for Lisa. Ryan wasn't the only one who was confused by Lisa's absence. Her daughter Krystina had called the house after school, but there was no answer. As was their routine, Krystina then paged her mom using Lisa's pager number. She always got back to the kids within minutes, but on this day she didn't, even though Krystina had tried to page her again. Krystina and her friend got on a golf cart and went to the house, but found the door locked and no one home. So Krystina called her grandmother and told her she couldn't find her mom. Right around this time, Neil Durden arrived at the Shuttleworth house. He couldn't get in touch with Lisa either, and he wanted to pick up a speaker she had borrowed. When Ryan told him his mom wasn't home and he didn't know what to do, Neil took Ryan to the home of his grandparents, but no one knew where Lisa could be. Lisa's mother was immediately alarmed that both kids were telling her Lisa was MIA. She had a key to her daughter's house, located at 111 Miller Street, which is now Fork Bend Street, so she headed right over there. The house was empty and silent. There were indications that Lisa had been there and had been interrupted. A teapot full of water sat on a stove burner, and a cloth napkin remained wrapped around the handle. But the stove was off and no one was drinking tea. Lisa had vanished. There wasn't a sign of anything amiss in the house. There was no forced entry, no evidence of a struggle. Lisa's car and the borrowed car were both there. But a walk through the home told Lisa's mother that her daughter's purse was missing. It's been reported that her driver's license, bank card, and Social Security card were found in the house, but her purse, with her wallet and pager, were never found. Krystina tells us that her mom's rings were on the windowsill and her makeup bag was in the house, but her slippers and sweatpants were gone, the things she wore around the home. And the fact that the front door was locked indicated that Lisa had stepped out with someone and intended to return. Police tried to put together a timeline of when Lisa disappeared. They knew she was at the pit stop service station around 9 a.m. Interviews with Neil Durden informed them that he had talked to her on the phone around 10 o'clock that morning, and she was at home. Neil reported that Lisa told him he couldn't come over to get his speaker because she was expecting a friend. She didn't say who this friend was, and it's possible that this was a made-up story to keep 74-year-old Neil from coming over. Lisa did not mention this friend to anyone else that day. Police checked the phone records to and from Lisa's home, and all calls after 11 a.m. went unanswered. After Lisa's mom discovered that her daughter was missing with no explanation, no phone call, no report of any plans, she called the police that evening and reported Lisa missing. She was told that she had to wait 24 hours to see if Lisa turned up. Well, she didn't. On September 5th, 2003, Lisa Shuttleworth was officially reported missing to the Aiken County Sheriff's Office. A few days later, police searched the area around Lisa's home using canines, but they didn't find her scent. She was gone. It's unclear how thoroughly the house was searched by authorities. The family feels strongly that the police did not adequately investigate Lisa's disappearance and that she met with foul play, possibly after leaving the house with someone she trusted or someone who coerced her. At the time of her disappearance, Lisa was in a relationship with a man she had dated before named Bubba Harrison. This was a man who had misled her in the past about his marital status, and Lisa had broken things off when she found out he was married. But he was now divorced, and they had reconnected. And Lisa's daughter has confirmed that Lisa told a very close friend of hers that she was pregnant and Bubba was the father. Pregnancy is a very dangerous time in many women's lives. Bubba was reportedly not happy with this news, which Lisa had only just revealed to him. There was reportedly an incident involving a gun, in which Lisa was threatened by Bubba and his friend. Lisa's friend Joy also reported in an interview with WJBF that Bubba had a new truck that went missing after Lisa's disappearance, and when police tracked it down, there was evidence of blood in the interior. It's uncertain that Bubba has an alibi for the day Lisa went missing, but he reportedly failed a lie detector test administered by police. Another person who also supposedly failed a polygraph was Lisa's ex-husband JT, who was angry with her for filing for child support for the 2 children they shared. In fact, he had threatened her with harm because of the legal proceedings she had initiated. Krystina was going into 9th grade when her mom inexplicably vanished, and she's been open about how her mother's abrupt disappearance sent her down a spiral of addiction. Her grandparents Jerry and Lorraine raised her, but the emotional trauma of the ambiguous loss of her mother caused her to fall into a years-long cycle of addiction. Her grandparents were very supportive and got her to rehab several times, and eventually, as an adult, Krystina was able to focus on trying to help solve her mom's case. Eventually, Jerry died of cancer, and Lorraine developed Alzheimer's and passed away as well. They died not knowing what happened to their daughter, Lisa. Lisa Shuttleworth was 5 foot 3 inches tall, and at the time of her disappearance, weighed 102 pounds, with brown hair and blue eyes. She would be 53 years old today. Her case has been entered into NamUs, and DNA from her parents and children has been entered into the South Carolina Law Enforcement and FBI missing persons databases. Anyone with information regarding Lisa's disappearance is asked to contact the Aiken County Sheriff's Office at 800-922-9709. Mike Morford sat down with Lisa's daughter Krystina to talk about her mother's case. That conversation is coming up after a word from our sponsors.
When it comes to Father's Day, some things never change. Dads want steak. And the experts at Omaha Steaks are making it easy for you to deliver uncompromising quality with gifts that are sure to make his day. Plus, get an extra $35 off with code THANKSDAD when you shop omahasteaks.com today. We know, being your dad means he already has everything he could want. But just picture the look on his face when he sees those extra-aged USDA-certified tender steaks, juicy air-chilled chicken, beefy burgers, and more. With carefully curated gift packages from America's original butcher, it's never been easier to show everyone why you're Dad's favorite. And every bite is 100% guaranteed to bring a thrill to the king of the grill. Shop now at omahasteaks.com and get an extra $35 off with code THANKSDAD. But don't wait. Father's Day is June 15th. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details.
Hi, Krystina, and thank you for coming on to talk about your mom Lisa's case with us today.
Hey, Mike, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I really do.
Well, we're definitely going to help you get the word out about your mom's case. She's been missing for coming up on, 21 years. It's
21.
2 decades without your mom in your life.
September will be 21 years.
Yeah, and I can't imagine how tough that it's been going, through this with having your mom missing from your life all this time. I know your story that you've been open about, you've gone down a really bumpy road, which we'll talk about later in the episode. But I imagine this all has really taken a toll on you and your family.
Yes, it definitely has.
And we just happened to be recording this interview, the day after your mom's 55th birthday. So I
Right.
imagine that birthdays, holidays, things like that must be especially tough for you.
Yeah, I've always heard, it gets easier with time, but I've not seeming to find that time that it gets easier and it's hard to believe, that she would be 55 and have 2 grandbabies, and it's very bitter. I can't even say sweet. It's very bitter.
Well, we're definitely going to talk about the mystery of what happened to your mom, what we know, what we don't know. Before we get into that part of it, though, can you tell listeners a little bit about your mom and what she's like, and maybe what was going on in her life leading up to when she went missing?
My mama was going through a pretty deep depression. After we buried, I always say the boys. Mama's best friend Joy, she lost her 3 boys in a car wreck July 11th of 2002. And my mama she helped raise them boys. We were together every weekend. We do beach trips almost every summer. Chuck E. Cheese, which my mama couldn't stand to go to Chuck E. Cheese. And we were all really close. So when they died, my mama took that extremely hard. I saw a big change in her. She wasn't getting ready like she, did before. My mama was big on she wouldn't go out the house without makeup and her hair done and dressed, and she changed. And I think that's when she met with an old boyfriend that she had actually dated a couple of times prior to this time giving it a chance. And she did kind of perk up a little bit. I didn't know exactly what it was because she'd never brought him around, because the previous time that they had dated, I made it very clear to her that, in fact, even Ryan being so young, he even had told her, he's weird. We just didn't like him. I don't know if it was because of the fact that we really had a weird feeling about him, or if it was just we didn't want our mama to be with anybody. We wanted her. But she, whenever I say she perked up, she was getting dressed again. She was doing her hair. She kind of was coming back to her. And the night before all this happened, I had stayed the night with my grandparents. And I mean, I was going through that was my teenage years. I was turning 15 at that November. And so I would stay with my best friend who lived in the neighborhood, or my grandparents. And, so I wasn't home all the time. But the night before, I had talked to her, and she was at home, her and Ryan, they was watching TV. And then that's whenever I got up the next morning and called her before school to see if it was okay that I rode home with my best friend, the one that lived in our neighborhood. And she told me, she said, yeah, that's fine. Just give me a call whenever you get there to let me know, you got home okay. And if I don't answer, page me. And that was common. She would say that often. If you couldn't get a hold of her via house phone, leave a message and page her. Well, that's whenever she didn't answer the house phone. No, let me get back to, I talked to her that morning. She said it was fine to call pager. And there was a few things on my school list that I had to get. And she said, we still have to go and get those things, because I had just started my 9th grade year. And I told her, okay. So I told her, she said, "I love you. Have a good day." Told her I love you, and I'm very, very, very grateful that those were the last words. I'm very blessed to have that, to hold on to. But
Mm.
so the reason whenever I got to my friends, I remember immediately calling her was because I knew we had to go get those school supplies, because sometimes whenever I say, "I'll call you as soon as I get home," I'd go home and I'd eat, then I'd call her. But that day, I went straight in and I called her. She didn't answer. I didn't page her though. Um, we put a pizza in the microwave, so give or take 5 minutes. I called back when the pizza was done. She didn't answer again, so that's when I paged her. And whenever I would put in her pager afterwards, I would always put 527. That's KBS for Krystina Brooks Shuttleworth. And usually, I mean, within 10, 15, sometimes 20 minutes, I'd say within a half an hour, she would always call me back because I put that 527. She would know exactly who it was. Well, she didn't call back, and I had finished the pizza and hadn't called back. I called the house again, still no answer. Paged her. It got to the point I put 527 star 911. And when she didn't call back after getting that, I knew something was not right.
Mm.
So we got on my best friend's grandma's golf cart, and we rode to the other side of the neighborhood, and there was two cars in the driveway, and one was my mama's and one was a borrowed car, and they were both in the driveway, and the door was locked. So I knocked, nobody come. We looked in windows, didn't see anything. We went back to my friends, and that's when I called my grandma. And I specifically said, "Nanny, something's not right." And she said, "What you mean?" I said, "Something's not right with mama." She said, "Why?" And I told her, and she said, "Let me tell you, Pappy, and we'll be out there soon." And that's when they come out there. Or that's when Ryan showed up, actually, with the man of the borrowed car.
I'm going to back up just a little bit, and then I'll come back to where we left off here. But so a couple things. First off, before this, not long before this, and I've got conflicting years. One says 1996, I think the other was 2003. Your mom had come out of a relationship. She had been married, and I guess this was to your father, Jack. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, yes, and I had also found out that he actually adopted me whenever I was 2. He's not my biological father.
Okay.
And I found that out right before she went missing also, so that's something else.
But
But
she had divorced him. Was it 1996 or 2003? I saw two different years
it
posted
was
for that.
in 96 they divorced.
Okay.
And then she had filed for child support.
Okay. So she had been divorced then for a while, I guess, when she went
Yes.
missing. And, there were, it was reported that he was abusive to her and she wanted to get out of that situation. Was she on good terms with Jack at that point?
No.
She wasn't. Okay. So they were still having issues.
Mhm.
Okay. And then you had mentioned she started seeing a man, and so this is Jimmy King, right?
Oh, no. No,
Oh,
no, 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 no.
that's a different one. Okay.
No. Okay. Okay, back up to Jimmy King. Okay. Listening, this is why I wanted to clear up a bunch of stuff from the interview that my brother done. He done great. He did. He was young. He, there's no possible way that he can remember, being so young, all the things. He got stuff what he had heard to the truth. Some things were confused, but he did awesome. I was very proud of him. But he got a lot of stuff that wasn't true also. Jimmy King he lived two places down from my grandfather's bar where my mother worked. He was a regular customer. My grandparents knew him. Like we knew him. He had a son, and my brother and his son played together a lot while my mama worked.
Okay. And so they had dated, but this isn't the boyfriend.
They never dated.
Oh, they
Never,
had it. Okay.
they never dated. He may have had a little crush on my mama, which a lot of guys did. My mama was a very outgoing person. She loved people. She did get along better with guys. So yes, she did have guy friends. But as far as dating, boyfriend and girlfriend, that thing, never.
Okay. So then who was it she was dating at the time she went missing?
Bubba, well, his name is James, but they call him Bubba Harrison.
Okay. And what was their relationship like at that time?
Well, they had dated a prior time to this time, and it ended bad because he had told her that he was not married, and my mama, she found out he was married and kind of set him up by she called him over, and then but had his wife there also, so to let him know that she knew about her. He wasn't too happy with that. So they broke up, and him and that woman actually got a divorce. And it was a couple of years later they ran into each other for this time.
Okay. And then they started dating again, and that's who she was dating when she went missing.
Correct.
Okay. And so going back to the day she disappeared, you told us that you went to the house, the door was locked, you couldn't get in. I assume you didn't have a key, and that's why you had to call your grandparents. How soon was it before they arrived and got there and you guys went inside, and what did you find when you went in there?
Well, whenever, the door was locked and everything, like I said, we went back to my friend's house and I called my grandma. Well, I did not know at that point in time. My grandparents came about an hour later, and I had no idea then of the facts, how my brother ended up being with my grandparents when I got with them. But when Ryan got off the bus that day, he tried to go to the house. She wasn't there. And he had a neighbor, a little boy that he played with. And so the owner of the white Lincoln, or no, it was a white Lincoln town car is what it was. That I'm gonna say his name. He's dead now. Neil Durden. He was a friend of my grandpa's. My grandpa had known him up many years. We all knew him. We would go to his house and have dinner, but so he was well known, and he just showed up that day, and Ryan was outside, and Neil was the one that actually took Ryan to my grandparents right after I got off the phone with them was when Neil was pulling up with Ryan. So Neil, we had a little Bose entertainment, or it was a little speaker that we had, and he said that was the reason he was coming back to the house to get it, because my mama was ignoring his calls. But she wasn't ignoring his calls, she wasn't there. So I don't believe that it was anything to do with him. I think he was really just wanting his speaker, and it was just the perfect timing.
Hmm.
Because he was old. He was in his, he was in his late 70s, had to have been. Mid 70s, give or take.
So he basically just showed up that day looking for a speaker and just happened to give your brother a ride, basically.
Correct, because Mama wasn't there. And
Okay.
Ryan went up to Neil because he knew him and asked Neil if he knew where my mama was, and he said no, that Mama was ignoring his calls. So he come over. So I don't really believe into that theory of anything, because I have been asked, isn't that kind of weird? And yeah, it is, but I think it was just he'd been calling that day and she wasn't answering, so he was going to get his stuff.
So he just popped over there.
Right.
When it comes to Father's Day, some things never change. Dads want steak. And the experts at Omaha Steaks are making it easy for you to deliver uncompromising quality with gifts that are sure to make his day. Plus, get an extra $35 off with code THANKSDAD when you shop omahasteaks.com today. We know, being your dad means he already has everything he could want. But just picture the look on his face when he sees those extra-aged USDA-certified tender steaks, juicy air-chilled chicken, beefy burgers, and more. With carefully curated gift packages from America's original butcher, it's never been easier to show everyone why you're dad's favorite. And every bite is 100% guaranteed to bring a thrill to the king of the grill. Shop now at omahasteaks.com and get an extra $35 off with code THANKSDAD. But don't wait. Father's Day is June 15th. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details.
When your grandparents do get there an hour later, whatever time it was you said, they go inside. Were you all there? Did you all walk around, and what did you see? What did you find when you went in there?
Everything was normal. It was there was the only thing that was weird and that just didn't set right with any one of us is just the pot of tea on the stove moved to another eye with a napkin over it. And Mama wore rings on majority of her fingers. And she had them on the windowsill behind the sink, like she had done dishes. And her her makeup bag was there. My mama did not go anywhere without her makeup bag. Nowhere. And how I know for a fact that she was in jogging pants, a shirt, and her bedroom shoes is because my mama was very picky about her clothes. My mama had 8 pair of blue jeans. 8 pair. And though I was able to go in and I looked at her blue jeans, she had them hanging up over the washer and dryer, and that was the door we used whenever you walked in. It was the laundry room and the guest bathroom. But they were hanging up, and at the time she had these Mickey Mouse shoes, that tennis shoes that she absolutely loved. She said they were so comfortable. Those were there. And her bedroom shoes were gone. So she was in her pajamas, and Mama Mama would only, if we woke up late and we're late for school, she would take us in her pajamas. And whenever she was very down and depressed, she would pick me up from school and she would be in her pajamas. And that's how I knew that she wasn't doing so good, because she just didn't do that. I'm sorry, I can see her now, but
No,
um
I understand. So it's got to be a tough situation because you're at the home. There's no sign of your mom. You're worried. What happened to her? Was there any sign of like anything knocked over? You mentioned the tea with the napkin over top of it. Was there anything else? Any chairs knocked over? Anything that made it look like
no,
something happened?
no,
Hmm.
no, it's like she left. I mean, she walked out, locked the door, and got in the car with somebody, and it was somebody she trusted, and it was somebody who she did not mind being in her pajamas in front of, which is not just anybody.
Yeah. And to clarify for listeners, so there were two cars you mentioned in the driveway. One was your mom's, but that car was broke down, right? And somebody had loaned her another car to use, but
Right.
that was also in the driveway too.
That one was in the driveway too. Yeah, she had a green Pontiac Grand Am, and yeah, that and the Neil Durden's Lincoln, but yeah, they were both parked in the driveway.
Okay. Now, I've read a couple different reports about what was missing, what wasn't missing. I read that her purse was gone, um, and also another report that said her pager was missing as well. Are those accurate? Both of those were missing?
But my mama kept, if my mama's pager was not on her hip, she always had it attached to her pocketbook. So her pager was gone. Her pager was gone too, with her pocketbook.
Okay.
But
So that was normal though.
we later did find her social security card, and
Driver's
I'm
license?
that's one thing that I'm not quite sure of. I'm not going to say that it was there and it what I'm not sure if we did find that. I know for a fact the social security card
Okay.
and her bank card. I'm not sure about that, the ID, but I'm thinking that that was in the pocket. But I'm thinking that for some reason I don't believe we found that, but I could be wrong.
Okay. And did your mom have an actual cell phone or just a pager?
It's a pager.
Okay. Because I know 2003, some people still hadn't gotten cell phones yet. So,
Right.
okay. So now you find both cars there. Your mom's not there. There's no sign of her. What was the next step? What did you all do right after that?
It was kind of like we went back to my grandma's, and I remember the ride home was the most awkward, like eerie, just, and Ryan kept saying, well, where did she go? You know, how did she just kept on saying, where'd she go? How did she get there? And just asking all these questions, and none of us knew the answers, and it just wasn't like her. So we never ever took it as, oh, she'll be back, or maybe she went to the grocery store, that we never acted as if it was just something small. We all knew that something was not right, because my mama didn't do that. If my mama went anywhere and she was not going to be there for me or Ryan, she always made sure somebody was. She always made sure that my grandparents or nanny or pap knew it was not like her. So we something was not right, and we all knew it.
And I'm curious too about the timeline. So your brother got off the bus and your mom wasn't home then. which I assume that's the first time somebody knew that she was not home or she was supposed to be. When was the last time before that day that somebody had saw or talked to her? How long before he got off the bus?
Well, they had actually woke up late that morning, and Mama took Ryan to school. And then she was seen on camera at the gas station right down the road from our house in the Lincoln town car, in Neil's car. And she was just sitting there reading the paper. And that wasn't uncommon for her. She would stop and read the paper, a lot of mornings if she had to take Ryan or myself. But for the most part, the bus is what Ryan rode. And I rode with my best friend in the neighborhood. She was seen on camera, and this was a little after 9 that she was seen on camera. And the house phone, that there had been calls answered up until a little after 11.
So it seems like 11 o'clock was the last time that somebody had some kind of communication with her. And what time did your brother get off the bus? Do you know?
He usually got there, I want to say around 2:45 or 3.
Okay. So about 4 hours, a 4-hour window roughly of when something might have happened.
Right.
And you mentioned earlier that Neil had been trying to get a hold of your mom. One of the reports says that she did speak with him that day.
The call did go answered, and he said that he did talk to her,
Okay.
and that she did tell him, because what I believe he was talking about was, getting that little Bose speaker, and her telling him, well, I'm expecting company, I don't know who that was, and I don't know if my mama was just saying that to kind of push him off, because she, she was very appreciative that he helped her, with the car, but he could get a little aggravating sometimes. And so I don't know if it was, if actually she was expecting somebody, or if that was just something that maybe she told him because she didn't want him coming over, sitting there talking for hours.
Sure. She might not have just been in the mood,
Right.
and there might not have been anybody coming over, but at the same time, then if there was somebody coming over, we don't know who it was, so it could have been a clue, and that's the frustrating thing. We don't really know anything about that.
When it comes to Father's Day, dads want steak. And the experts at Omaha Steaks are making it easy for you to deliver uncompromising quality with gifts that are sure to make his day. Plus, get an extra $35 off with code THANKSDAD when you shop at omahasteaks.com today. But don't wait. Father's Day is June 15th. Shop now at omahasteaks.com and get an extra $35 off with code THANKSDAD. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details.
This podcast is sponsored by Ramp. Look, there's feelings and then there's the facts. If you're feeling like your finance team is bogged down in mundane manual tasks, the fact is you need Ramp. Ramp is the corporate card that makes the expense process fast and easy. The moment your team makes a purchase, Ramp handles everything. Receipt collection and approvals, the works. With Ramp, you can cut your month-end close from 5 days to 1, customize approval workflows, and get complete control over every transaction. Facts. Over 25,000 businesses trust Ramp, including Shopify and the Boys & Girls Club of America, which is why they were just named #1 in spend management by G2. Facts. Start using Ramp and you'll have more time to spend scaling your business. And that'll feel really good. Upgrade to Ramp for free today and get $250 at ramp.com. That's ramp.com. RAMP.com.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
so we have this window, we have this 11 to 3 window when something might have happened. So I also understand that your family was told that you have to wait a certain amount of time to actually report her missing. What did they say? It had to be 24 hours?
Well, um, and on the truck ride back to my grandparents, um, my grandpa, he really didn't know what to say. All he could say is, we gotta call Aiken County. We got to call, we got to find out where she's at. So whenever we get home, that was the first thing that was done. We called and told them that we didn't know where she was, that her cars were home, the doors were locked, and this was not like her, that she did not do something like this ever. And then they told her that she had to wait 24 hours. And on the police report, it shows that Nanny didn't even wait 24 hours, I do not believe. She was calling the next morning and, telling them again, look, something got to be done, because she didn't come home, that night. So, it was filed, and yeah.
So it's gotta be frustrating waiting for the police to make you wait to start looking. And I know it wasn't for an entire week that they didn't really do any organized searches, but I think that eventually after a week they sent out sniffing dogs, some kind of sent sniffing dogs to look around your house in that area, and they didn't seem to find anything. Why did it take so long for them to really start searching and put these dogs out there and stuff? Do you know? Do you think they didn't take the case seriously?
I really, yeah, I think what they did is they saw it as, here, a woman was, a single mom. Her dad owns a bar. She works at the bar. She's got another man's car. She's got a boyfriend. She's just hauled butt. It it didn't look good, if you say it like that, but there was so much more than that, because the house was locked up. There was no kind that they didn't see it as any kind of forced entry or any kind of I can't even think of the word, any foul play, that she just left, pretty much is the way they acted, as if they thought is what happened. So by that time, we had been in there. We had gotten other people to help get some stuff out, because I wasn't going to be staying there, so we had to, get clothes and our bed and, everything, and we needed, so everything was touched. There was tire tracks that had been, messed with. It's just, they lost so much just by not looking into the case more than what they did, only considering how something looked. Just because something looks a certain way does not mean that it really is, though.
Sure. Now, I think once they took it as if something has happened, we need to really start looking for. It's only natural that they're going to start talking to friends and family and coworkers and stuff to try and find out what happened. They're going to look closely at those people. one of the people they would have looked at was her ex-husband. Did she have a beef with him? Was he cooperative? Was he talked to? And did he have an alibi?
Um, he had some kind of little alibi. I don't think it was much of anything. I think he was at home or something, and um he's actually done a lie detector test and he failed. And he had always told my mama that, I mean, he had threatened her when she filed for divorce, but it, she managed to keep him far. He was in and out of jail all of mine and Ryan's life. He would put his hands on my mama, and whenever she finally, divorced him, he did make, some pretty bad threats. And yeah, my mama was very scared of JT. And then when she filed for child support, he had already threatened her life that when she did that, he wasn't gonna be too happy, put it that way. And I recall one night, it wasn't too terribly long before this actually happened. JT had called one night, and he was under the influence of something, and he had asked to talk to Ryan. And it was a school night, and Ryan was already in bed asleep. And when Mama told him that, he flipped. And they went back and forth to the point of it actually woke me up out of my room, and I walked in there and I could actually hear him yelling and swearing and threatening her just by her holding the phone. And she's standing there, and it's like she was in a daze, just staring at me, just listening to him. And she just finally hung up. And I said, Mama. And she didn't say anything, but the living room, that the TV and the couches that we stayed in, because we had two living rooms. And there was a double door that led out to the deck, to the pool, and it was glass doors. Well, she covered those with blankets. I helped her. She went and made sure all the doors were locked, the windows were locked. And she said, "Go get your brother up and come in here." We got the mattress and we slept on the floor in the living room. She was that scared. And I still don't know what ever come of that, if they even talked again. I'm not sure. I know that he's got very violent anger issues, and he snaps. But the way he acted after all this, he kind of started to get real close with the family. He got real close with my grandfather, and he had my grandpa convinced that he wouldn't have done anything to hurt her. Yeah, he hurt her in the past.
It's clear from everything you're saying that your mom was afraid of him, so it makes sense that he would be a person of interest that the police would want to check in, and another person, obviously, that they would have interest in because your mom was dating him at the time was Bubba Harrison. Did he cooperate, and what was his story? Did he have an alibi?
He did, and I'll say this because it's out there, and doing this and being completely honest with everything. My mama, I did not see the pregnancy test myself, no, but she told a reliable friend of hers that she was pregnant, and it was Bubba's, and he was not happy about that.
Did they fight over that or have any falling out over that?
Well, I just found this out last year. We did an interview with the Cold Case Project that days prior to this, Bubba or James was somewhere that my mama went to, and my mama and Bubba was in a vehicle, and a third party got in and they were arguing, and supposedly he pulled a gun on my mama, and he wanted her to have an abortion, and my mama told him that she was not going to do that. But Mike, a couple of weeks ago, I actually ran into him, and it's the first time I've seen him since all this. And he did not, I mean, I'm very proud of myself how I acted. I didn't flip like I wanted to. I didn't choke him like I wanted to. I didn't spit in his face. I didn't do none of that. He did not give me anything to hold on to make me believe that he didn't do it. But there wasn't something there that made me believe this is him. You know, that I would know. And I mean, my eyes, it took him a minute, but I wouldn't quit staring at him. But finally, he asked me, he said, "Do I know you?" And I said, "Think back 20 years ago." And I mean, he stood there and he let me lash out at him, and he told me, he said, "I loved your mama." He said, "You don't understand. I loved your mama." And whenever I walked off, to leave, and I was saying, just all kind of stuff to him that maybe I shouldn't have. I don't know, but I don't know if he is responsible anymore. I think maybe we need to look elsewhere, because apparently we're not getting anywhere focusing on him. And he had an alibi, but it was crappy too, because he supposedly went and picked up a work crew, took them to work, and he left, and he told them what he went and done, and then he went back to work. So he didn't have really a big alibi, but I don't know. I don't know.
When it comes to Father's Day, dads want steak. And the experts at Omaha Steaks are making it easy for you to deliver uncompromising quality with gifts that are sure to make his day. Plus, get an extra $35 off with code THANKSDAD when you shop at omahasteaks.com today. But don't wait. Father's Day is June 15th. Shop now at omahasteaks.com and get an extra $35 off with code THANKSDAD. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details.
This podcast is sponsored by Ramp. Look, there's feelings and then there's the facts. If you're feeling like your finance team is bogged down in mundane manual tasks, the fact is you need Ramp. Ramp is the corporate card that makes the expense process fast and easy. The moment your team makes a purchase, Ramp handles everything. Receipt collection and approvals, the works. With Ramp, you can cut your month-end close from 5 days to 1, customize approval workflows, and get complete control over every transaction. Facts. Over 25,000 businesses trust Ramp, including Shopify and the Boys and Girls Club of America, which is why they were just named #1 in spend management by G2. Facts. Start using Ramp and you'll have more time to spend scaling your business. And that'll feel really good. Upgrade to Ramp for free today and get $250 at ramp.com. That's ramp.com. ramp.com.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
There was one mention of him having a new truck at the time your mom went missing, and then a couple of weeks later, he got rid of that truck. And I think it was something to the effect that later on that truck was found,
And it
and
blew like a light bulb. That I have now that I heard for the first time last year whenever we did that interview. I've never heard that. Um, I I I think Nanny and Pappy would have mentioned something like I never heard that.
okay, and the story was basically that they took out the seats and stuff and put luminol on it, checking for blood, and it lit up like there was a lot of blood in the truck. That's something that you don't know anything really about that specifically.
I never heard that one.
Okay. So basically you have your mom's ex-husband who she's got issues with. They don't get along and he's threatened her. You have her current boyfriend at the time she went missing who allegedly pulled a gun on her. So there's two people right there that, it seems like they could be involved somehow. But then and I think there's been other people mentioned as persons of interest, and I mentioned we talked about a couple of these people earlier. I don't know why they were mentioned as persons of interest, and correct me if I'm wrong and they're not supposed to be, but one was Neil Durden, which you already talked about, and one was Jimmy King, who you also talked about.
Okay,
Why
yeah.
would they have been listed as persons of interest? Was it just because they, because Neil had been there that day, but trying to get a hold of her that day? Was there something else?
No. Neil, I mean, Neil was, an old, in his 70s, and, Mama and Ryan, we would go over to his house, and he would cook steaks, and maybe my mama, maybe gave him the wrong impression, maybe. I mean, he was letting her use his car, and I think maybe he liked having her around. So therefore, because of the car, because he showed up, because yes, I think it was really the timing of him pulling up is what really put the spotlight on him.
Okay.
Because Neil respected my grandfather very much. Neil, he cared for my mama, he cared for me and Ryan, and I don't see him, no. That was put into a different lighting than what it actually really was.
Did the police talk to him? Did he, cooperate with them to clear his name?
We did.
Okay.
We sure did.
And then why would Jimmy King be mentioned as a person of interest? You mentioned that, he and your mom knew each other, but why would his name come into possibly being a person of interest?
Because considering his house was 2 places down from my grandpa's bar. When my mama would work, he would show up and he would sit at the bar and he would talk and talk and talk. And I guess at one incident at the bar while my mama was working, he took a picture of her and she wasn't paying attention. Like it was like he didn't let her know that he was about to take the picture. And he took it, and supposedly he had it up in the living room of his house. But after Mama went missing, I reached out to Jimmy because I even knew, of course I knew Jimmy too. And as I got older, there was questions that I had. This man had pictures of everybody. I mean, he had pictures up everywhere in the house that he lived in at that time. So I think him having a picture of my mama up in the living room, I think that come from my brother and Jimmy King's son, maybe saying, yeah, my daddy's got a picture of your mama, just kind of thrown out there in a way that it wasn't. Because again, Jimmy King respected my grandfather, he loved my grandma. He always treated her with the utmost respect. Yes, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. He did have a little crush on my mama, you could tell. If he went out of town, he'd bring her back a t-shirt. It was little things like that. But with her working where she was working and her personality and the way she got along with people, my mama made a lot of friends. And a lot of times at the bars late at night are mostly men. And she just could conversate with anybody, and they just, I guess, drunk guys like that.
It was your mom a bartender?
Yes,
Okay.
she was the manager of the bar. If my grandpa, if he didn't do the books, or if he was out of town and couldn't do the books, my mama would do the books. She would go in and open, like it was a family owned business. But like my grandfather said, that bar was the biggest mistake of his life.
Hmm. And with that kind of job, she could have met any number of different people who could
Correct.
have had an interest with her or could have been dangerous, and we don't know. But as of now, the people we've talked about so far in this episode, they've all had some level of cooperation or some kind of alibi or something. There's nothing solid that points to any one of these people being involved, correct?
Correct. Well, I mean, besides, JT failed, and uh, and Bubba failed the lie detector test.
Oh, so they both failed the lie detector
They
test.
both
Okay.
failed. Mhm.
Okay.
And there was another one, and this is where the other interview comes in, is the that whatever that thing was behind JT's house in the ground. I still don't know that cellar thing. I still don't know what it is. I still have yet to even look at it. But there was Sonny. I know that name was mentioned whenever you talked to my brother, right? A man named Sonny. He lived in the house before JT did. Do you recall that one?
I didn't know about that.
Okay, well, there was a guy named Sonny, and he lived in the trailer that JT moved in. When Ryan found that cellar, that kind of, you don't come across that every day, and especially in our situations, you don't just move into a house and you've been one to fail a lie detector test, and it was your ex-wife, but you got a cellar in your ground behind I just that don't sit right with me. But before he moved in there, a guy named Sonny lived there, and Sonny had actually been to our house to work on our computer twice.
Hmm.
So
Did Sonny have any kind of relationship with JT?
they knew. Oh yeah, they knew each other real well,
Hmm.
real well. really well.
Oh.
And go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so I think from what I'm getting, the brother felt like your brother felt like this was a suspicious seller that seemed to be hiding something.
It, yeah, that I mean, you can go online and you can find it, and it is a 4 wall hole in the ground that he's recording. He's in it, and I mean, he's showing, and he swears it's like it looks like maybe like a dark rust. It could be rust, but then again, it could be. I don't know how things went with that, honestly. Um, because me and Ryan, we don't talk like we should. And even when that happened, he was staying a lot with JT. JT was redoing the house, and there was drugs involved at that time, and JT was not a good father at all. And when Ryan found that it is right behind the house, and the next door neighbor is actually Sonny's mama, and that's where Sonny still lives to this day when he's not in jail.
So just suspicious, but nothing concrete that is linked to the case for sure.
Nothing for sure. No.
So, here we are all these years later. Your mom's case isn't solved, and we've got a cast of possible suspects, but nothing directly links to one of them. I'm curious. The police, it seems like they stated that no foul play suspected in your mom's case. Is that correct? Because why would they conclude that? Do they think she just walked off and left you kids behind and started a new life? Is that what they're thinking?
I think it was because her pocketbook was gone, the door was locked, and nothing was not over.
And have there ever been any sightings of her, any records of her using bank
No,
accounts or anything like that?
nothing. And my grandfather made sure he kept her pager on, made sure that he kept her bank. I mean, everything he kept. He kept the house. Well, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to because I'm being honest. Very, very shortly after Mama went missing, my uncle, her brother, and his family moved in and acted as if he knew that she wasn't coming back. They moved into our house, and whenever my grandfather, wasn't paying for it anymore, they moved out. But that is something that I have been thinking a lot on here lately, and I don't think that everybody has been looked at like maybe some need to.
Well, let's hope they'll keep looking and not give up. Are they still? Have you heard from them? Are they still actively investigating the case?
No, and I mean they're what they told me, and that she was a file on the desk, that they won't move it, that they are waiting on a body, a confession, or a murder weapon. they did not do their job at the beginning, and they have not done their job as far as when I call and I ask a question, they can't even give me an answer. Just like when last year, whenever we did that with the cold case project, a lieutenant was talked to about Mama's case, and all he really said was, the family says that she's, this is not like her to do, that she wouldn't leave her kids, but there's been no foul play. They have nothing to say, because I think maybe they do think that she just left, but I know for a fact that's not the case, because if my mama needed a break, if she needed time, if she wanted to go somewhere, the first phone call she would have made would have been to my grandparents, tell them, look out for Krystina and Ryan. I need a break, because my mama, we never went without. My mama did not leave us for no man. She was a damn good mama. She had her issues. She had her problems, especially, with her depression, and after the boys passed, but she didn't just leave.
So you don't think that she's out there someplace? You think something happened to her?
Oh yeah, I know my mama's still not alive, because I know my mama could have not walked away that day, September 4th, 2003, and never looked back at her life that she had for 35 years, and not call a single person. She could have not done that. She was a daddy's girl. She definitely couldn't have done that.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like there's anything that indicates that she would have just left either. It seems like she did meet with foul play, and I hope the police give that further consideration.
When it comes to Father's Day, dads want steak. And the experts at Omaha Steaks are making it easy for you to deliver uncompromising quality with gifts that are sure to make his day. Plus, get an extra $35 off with code THANKSDAD when you shop at omahasteaks.com today. But don't wait. Father's Day is June 15th. Shop now at omahasteaks.com and get an extra $35 off with code THANKSDAD. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details.
This podcast is sponsored by Ramp. Look, there's feelings, and then there's the facts. If you're feeling like your finance team is bogged down in mundane manual tasks, the fact is, you need Ramp. Ramp is the corporate card that makes the expense process fast and easy. The moment your team makes a purchase, Ramp handles everything. Receipt collection and approvals, the works. With Ramp, you can cut your month-end close from 5 days to 1, customize approval workflows, and get complete control over every transaction. Facts. Over 25,000 businesses trust Ramp, including Shopify and the Boys and Girls Club of America, which is why they were just named #1 in spend management by G2. Facts. Start using Ramp and you'll have more time to spend scaling your business. And that'll feel really good. Upgrade to Ramp for free today and get $250 at ramp.com. That's ramp.com. ramp.com.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
And I know you've been trying to get attention on her case. You've done interviews, podcasts, that kind of stuff. There's a Facebook page, Forever Searching for Lisa S., I think it is. trying to get attention for the case. Is that something that you run or you help run for your mom's case?
Well, my aunt, well, I call her my aunt, but my mama's best friend Joy, she uh she actually does that. And that was one thing that she started right at the beginning. She uh she had sleepless nights. She got us in with the Q Center, with Miss Monica, who is amazing. Um, we went to Myrtle Beach to a seminar. We went to Hilton Head for a seminar. Joy put a lot together, and but uh, Joy still has a hard time because here it is. It's Mama's birthday yesterday, and then next month, July 11th, will be 20 years for her boys. So it's rough around this time of year.
Yeah. It sounds like she's tried her best to help you keep your
She
mom's case out
has.
there.
She has. She's been amazing.
Does that Facebook page, Forever Searching for Lisa S., does it have information about the case and stuff that people can come to and find out more about the case?
You know, I do know that with Joy taking care of her mother who recently passed from cancer, she kind of slacked off a little bit, which I completely understand. She held that page up for a long time. I was actually I'm in the process of making a new one, and gonna update it and put more stuff on there and try and get more attention drawn to it. So I'm working on that as we speak.
Well, and let's shift gears a little bit here as we wrap up, because I know your mom's case and losing her, not having her, has really caused you to have, as I mentioned earlier, a tough road. You've had problems with alcohol abuse or substance abuse, and you've really battled to come back from that and get back on a clean path. How tough has that been for you, and what have you gone through?
Well, let's see. It this happened. I just started ninth grade, and that's the years. That's the years that you choose. What you're gonna do in life, and I didn't have a fair shot. Um, it's been a awful, long, hard battle. That's for sure. Yeah, with it, I had started, high school, and the pain, the the not knowing, the so many questions, it hurt physically, and I found ways to help that hurt. And um my grandparents were amazing. They I'd been to rehab, uh let's see, 4 times now. And um when I lost Nanny, because they're gone now, and that right there is that's
that's brought up some really bad wounds, especially losing my grandma, because she became my rock. She stepped in place of mom, and she wore those shoes perfectly. And she was my everything. So we lost Pappy in September of 2020 due to throat lymph node cancer. The only thing that I'm very, very blessed and how I do keep going every day is through his cancer and his radiation and his chemo. I was there. That man took his last breath in my arms. And I'm so grateful for that. And to know that I took care of him out of all the years that he took care of me, and he never gave up on me. He loved me very much. He loved me and Ryan. I can't even explain. And Nanny got dementia whenever she lost Pappy. She checked out. Like she wasn't her no more. And she passed away 2 days before my birthday last year. And I kind of slipped a little bit, but I'm getting there. That's why I needed this podcast. I needed to talk to you. I need to do something to keep this alive. I think that that's my calling, and I'm wanting to do more because my grandparents passed away without knowing what happened to their baby. And I know that if I don't start doing something, I don't want to leave my 2 kids the same way. I don't want them ever being without me.
No.
And yes, I've had a hard life. Ain't we all? Everybody has some kind of story. Some is worse than others. But it's about how you deal with it. And even if you slip and you fall, it don't matter how long you stay down, just get back up and find something to turn your negative into a positive. You only live once. And I'm just really grateful for you, Mike, for replying to me. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and again, we're happy to help you and get the word out and help you, spread the word. The case is still unsolved, and thank you for sharing and being open about your struggles, because I'm sure there's somebody listening that's going through something similar and maybe having similar struggles, and just to hear from you that you're trying to get through this, maybe it'll help them to find their way back onto the into the light too. So just hang in there and keep up the battle, and I'm gonna hope for the best for you, and that you find out too what happened to your mom.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Missing Persons. If you can provide any information to help solve the case we discussed in this episode, please contact the appropriate authorities.
If you enjoy this podcast, please take a moment to tell your friends about Missing Persons and invite them to listen to the show. Word of mouth will help us grow and bring these cases to a larger audience. You can also help us by taking a moment to rate and review Missing Persons on the platform you're listening to us now on. Just a reminder that new episodes of Missing Persons air every other Saturday. If you want to find us on social media, We're on Facebook at facebook.com/missingpersonspod. We're also on Twitter with the handle @missing_pod. And of course, you can find us and contact us through our website, missingpersonspodcast.com. On behalf of Jess Betancourt, this is Mike Morford saying thanks, and we'll see you next time on Missing Persons.
When it comes to Father's Day, dads want steak. And the experts at Omaha Steaks are making it easy for you to deliver uncompromising quality with gifts that are sure to make his day. Plus, get an extra $35 off with code THANKSDAD when you shop at omahasteaks.com today. But don't wait. Father's Day is June 15th. Shop now at omahasteaks.com and get an extra $35 off with code THANKSDAD. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details.